Hi everyone, welcome to Module 6. Congratulations on making it through your visual theories test and for getting through these 2 sensory and 1 perceptual theory. I know that semiotics was probably really difficult for you all to understand and to get through and to apply. So we're going to be spending the rest of the semester really building on top of that. It's a really foundational, fundamental visual theory that you need to know. How do we attach meanings to signs? How do we learn codes and rules in order to interpret those signs, and how does this all connect to visual culture and to our visual media landscape? So what we're really going to be doing this week in Module 6 is moving on from semiotics, applying semiotics into our media consumption. So I want to take a second to show you a little overview of how we're going to be doing this for the rest of the semester. So the first half of the semester, or the first chunk of this semester, we really focused on drilling down into Huxley's equation, sensing plus selecting plus perceiving equals seeing. And now we're going to talk a little bit more about what goes into perception, because it's not always just that one-to-one, this means that, as we were talking about it when we discussed semiotics. There's a lot of other factors that go into your perception of not just of all kinds of signs and your perception of the world and how you see the world. So what we're going to be doing this week and in the following weeks is focusing on content and finding some other ways to apply the meaning of content. So meaning making and semiotics will really come into play here. So if you need a review, if you didn't get the scores you wanted on last week's assignments or on your visual theories test, please make sure you review that you understand how do we attach meanings to signs? How do we learn what meanings go to which signs in which situations? Because this week in this lesson, you are going to talk about visual culture and what does it mean to share meanings for signs with other people. And you're going to be doing this through your visual media consumption, because especially now in the last year we've had so much of of the signs and meaning making that we consume is done through visual media, which is what you're consuming right now. So we're talking about the content still a little bit this week, but we're also bringing in another factor. We're talking about the form that this content takes. What is the media? And you'll learn later this week about Marshall McLuhan, who's a very famous media critic. And he said that the medium is the message. So I want us to be considering not just the meaning of what is seen, of the content itself, of the signs, but also what is the shape that message is taking? What is the medium that it is being presented to you? And how does that also impact your perception? And then a little bit later next week, and then through your visual analysis, which is your final, which will be you will be preparing for and completing it during Module 8. We will be talking about the historical context of a message's creation, of a visual message's viewing, and all of these things come together to help you perceive. And what perception really is an explanation of how we see the world. So that's why this module is called that. And how we will be exploring it. You're going to start with yourself and make sure you do this reading, this How to See the World reading. Really ties in and connects this idea of visual culture and how you are connected to the visual media that you consume. You are not passive consumers in this. It's not just the doom scroll that goes by you, right? Your visual media consumption is informing you about how to interpret signs, about which cultures you are a member of. And the information that you are consuming is showing you how to see the world. So after we talk about how you see the world, and you're going to show us what it's like to be a viewer in that culture, there's a video lecture. You will complete a visual media survey, quick 5 points, and then post in this discussion board, sharing an example of a visual culture that you are a part of, and introducing us to the signs and the codes that are being exchanged through the visual media that you consume. So show us what it looks like. And I have an example here for you as well. And then the next lesson is all about visual literacy throughout history. And here again, we're introducing Marshall McLuhan's The Medium is the Message. And then there's a whole lesson about how visual communication has evolved throughout history. How have we gone from cave paintings to the printing press? And next week, we'll talk about photography and text and images working together, but really want to focus it and use Marshall McLuhan, his concepts, and apply them to the alphabet, because the invention of the alphabet, which even though you're watching a video, look at all the words on this page, and so much of the information that you have learned throughout your life, so much of the way that you see the world has been impacted by your literacy in an alphabet, and thinking about the ways that different humans have seen the world throughout history. How did we learn to see the world? How did we get to where we are now? There's this quick quiz after you do the podcast, the short podcast, about 30 minutes. The reading and the video lecture, you have a short quiz and then an assignment where you will find an example of a text of the alphabet. You'll be learning about what is an alphabet versus any other forms of visual language. But again, pulling a lot from the Stuart Hall reading from semiotics and bringing it up into these conversations. So finding an example of a text of a time when written language impacted you, taught you something, changed the way that you see the world. So really thinking about these psychic and social consequences of the form, going deeper into the content, thinking about the form, and in the next coming weeks, we'll talk about context and how context impacts your perception as well. So enjoy this week and enjoy learning how we see the world. Good luck.